Welcome back. In this lesson, we will discuss IAM policies more in depth. Now, as you can see, we have 3 different groups and they all have different policies attached to each group. The reason is because we have separation of duties in which each team has a different role from the other. Some of the policies between the groups can be similar, but remember that each member of the group inherits only what is applied to their specific group. We also have the possibility of placing a user into multiple groups. For example, if this user is part of the security group and needs to be able to audit and inspect both the developers and admins, well, he would need to access the resources to check best security practices. We also have the possibility in which we have the separate user by himself, which doesn't belong to any of the groups, but he still has a policy directly applied to him. We call these inline policies. For example, let's say that he only needs access to an S3 bucket to download some important business documents, but doesn't need to do anything else. Well, then we can apply the policy to his user account using an inline policy so that he only has access to that and nothing else. Now, for the exam, you will only need to know how policies work at a high level, but I still want you to understand policies a little more in depth so that you get familiar with them and feel confident when talking about them. Also, if you plan on taking one of the associate level certifications, you will need to understand them more in depth. So, policies are JSON-based documents. They usually contain a version number that specifies the language number. It's a best practice to use the latest, which is 2012-1017. An ID, which is optional and missing from this screenshot, helps you differentiate your policies. It usually provides a quick description of what it does. Most policies can and will include multiple statements providing permissions explicitly. This is a required element within the policy, and if you are creating a policy document and don't include this, you will get an error. Once you start creating long, complex IAM policies, you will definitely want to start using SIDs or SIDs or statement identifiers because you will be staring at JSON documents and you want to be able to identify the different statements quickly. Next, we have the principal, sometimes required but not always. The reason is because it depends. If we are creating a resource-based policy, then we have to define the account, the user, or the role that this applies to. If we are creating a general IAM permission, well, then we can leave it out. Next, we have the effect of this statement, whether it's going to explicitly allow or deny the actions that follow. And finally, we have our resource which this statement applies to. Again, this is probably beyond the scope of the exam, but I want you to start learning this if you're planning on taking any of the other associate level exams, because it usually takes people a little bit longer to learn these, and I feel it is my duty as your instructor to give you a head start in learning these policies in depth to better prepare you. I'll see you in the next video.